All right, folks. Hey, welcome to the podcast program, the People's Trust Company business advice and just interesting things in the community that you may or may not be aware of. And so we haven't had an episode since the prior to the holidays. So this is our first episode of 2026, and we have something for you today that I find incredibly interesting. And it's kind of an old thing with a new twist and why it's important again. So today we have Kelley of Carry Me Away Travels that is going to demystify some of the confusion and the myths of a travel agency and to folks out in the crowd here that are my age or older, they remember the days of a travel agent when you almost couldn't travel without one. And then the internet showed up and everybody was jockeying for position, and there was a lot of competition in the travel agent industry. And it seemed like that they were all but gone. And then I bumped into Kelley a couple, maybe a year and a half ago, and she re-educated me on the role of the travel agent. And lo and behold, it's more important today than I think it's ever been. So, Cari, why don't you do a quick introduction of yourself for me, and then I will get into the meat of the program here today.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for having me. As Jay said, my name is Kelley, and I own Carry Me Away Travels, which is a full-service travel agency. I am a certified travel advisor through the American Society of Travel Advisors. So the terminology travel agent has now switched to travel advisor, and we can talk a little bit about why that's important if you want to cover that topic. I've been in travel a little bit, on and off for 20 years. In 2006, I came in through a multi-level group, and really realized then that I loved travel. I lived in Europe from 1987 to 1989. I lived in Augsburg, Germany for 2 years. Did a lot of travel. I was the person who, growing up, we would go to my grandparents' dairy farm. That was our family vacation. And then I got married very young and was swiftly taken to Europe for 2 years. Never had really left the state. Left my parents' home right into Europe. It was quite, and of course we had no texting, not even email back then. So it was quite an experience, but that's really where I found my love of travel. We traveled Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and Italy pretty extensively. Did a lot of Eurail passes. Just took, appreciated the transportation, which is even better today than it was back then, and it was pretty phenomenal back then. So I've been in travel for a long time. I did go full time a year ago on April 1st. And yeah, it's been great. And travel is definitely back, and travel advisors are more needed now than ever.
Perfect. And thank you for that, Cari. And just to the audience that's just tuned in, let me mention a little bit about the format of the podcast. If you want to ask Cari a question, and a very specific question, feel free to type it in the chat. And whether you're watching on one of the Facebook pages, Instagram, or YouTube, it's all the same. All you have to do is comment on the event and the chat will get here. Or if you want to come right in and ask a question face to face on camera, we can also accommodate that. But just so you know, before we get too far into it, we're going to talk about why travel agent, and is it really expensive or not? And what's the deal with travel insurance? And then where Cari is telling me most of her customers are coming from something called internet overwhelmed. So we're going to touch on all those really quick. And then again, if you have a question, pop it in the chat. It'll pop up right here, and Cari can speak to it in great detail. And Cari, so let's start with, why should somebody get a travel agent in 2026?
So I think the biggest the biggest change has been when you think about a travel agent back in the kind of the day of the brick and mortar travel agencies. You would walk in, you kind of knew where you wanted to go, or they would have a bunch of brochures available to give you ideas. It was a very transactional experience. You sat down, you booked your flight, they gave you your physical tickets, they gave you, like I said, brochures for the areas you want to go. They booked your hotel, and then you kind of walked out the door, and that was kind of the end of it. You didn't have any more real contact with the travel agent. Today, the travel advisor is much more of a relationships built um, transaction. So, for instance, it's really taking an opportunity to sit down with somebody and really talk about what is it exactly that you want to accomplish on this trip. What are you looking to do? Where do you really want to go? The travel advisor takes care of everything, most anyway. And when I say travel advisors, I'm going to be talking specifically about my role and what I do for my clients. But I take care of everything. I take care of the flights. I check people into their flights. I take care of car rentals, hotel accommodations, all of the excursions. If there's a specific restaurant that a client wants to go to, I will take care of the restaurant reservations. Whatever it is that the client really dreams about, I take care of it soup to nuts. When we are done with that process, then they receive from me a fully digital itinerary, which they can print in a PDF form if they want to have a hard copy with them. But they get a fully digital itinerary with all of the information in there, all of the flight numbers, all of your confirmation numbers, your seat numbers, your hotels, anything, confirmation numbers, tickets for your excursions, everything is in this one app, and my clients absolutely love it. And one of the biggest reasons why they love it is because, for instance, for the flights, it live tracks your flight. So I go ahead and put the flight information into the portal. And if there is a change while you're in flight, if you have a layover in another city, and there's a change that's going to happen and you're in flight, I'm automatically notified, as are you, through the app that there's either a gate change, or your next flight's been canceled, or it's delayed, whatever. If there's something that I could be doing while you're in flight to help offset the what's going to happen on the other end, I will go ahead and start that process. And so clients love this because they know that they're going to be notified too, but I have the ability at that point to switch gears and figure out what needs to be done to get the client to where they need to be. So it's a very different relationship than it was back in the day. There's a lot more education involved in being a travel advisor. I am a verified travel advisor through the American Society of Travel Advisors. ASTA is what their acronym is. And that's not just a quick certification. That was hours and hours of learning about the legalities, learning about different suppliers, anything to do with being a travel advisor. So there's just it's a different level of contact with the client than the old travel agent.
So that's a great description of what you do and how you do it. And I can think of times when I've been traveling where that would have been very handy. But and what an amazing service you provide. But then my first thought is, this is just for rich folks. I can't afford to travel like that. What's the
Right.
deal with this?
No, so another part of the process in talking with clients is, obviously, I don't like to call it a budget. I like to call it their travel investment, because it really is truly an investment that people are putting out to make sure that they, can have an enjoyable trip. And we work with that, and I'm honest enough with my clients. If they say, we have a $3,000 budget and we want to go to Europe for days, we're not going to be able to do it. And I don't want them to waste their time and, on thinking that that's possible. But, beside that, I really can work within budget. Um, and I very rarely go over budget. And if I do, it's not by much, I'll tell you that. So I have the relationships internationally with different suppliers, different hotels, that I can really look at figuring out what's the best bang for the buck, right? I mean, that's really what this is about. If we, you're right. I have clients that drop $50,000 on a trip. That I have a very few of those. Nobody can really do that. That's not something that's really um, that the everyday person could do. I have a lot of people that will spend, I would say on average they're spending 5,000 to $7,500. And we're able to really build really nice trips within that type of budget, depending on where they want to go. So it's all about the travel investment and then where they want to go. And then I try to, work some magic as much as I possibly can.
So does it add to the cost of the trip to work with you, or how does that work? Like if I've only got $6,000 to do 6 days down in Florida, is that 6,000 now going to turn into an $8,500 trip that I,
Right.
you know?
So I do charge a planning fee, and the reason that I do this is a number of reasons, but it's something that people don't understand about the travel industry. As a travel advisor, we do get commission back from, say, the hotels. We do not get any commission from the airlines. They stopped paying commission years ago. Um, but everything else, the hotels, the car rentals, the excursions, all do pay a commission. It's not as much as people think it is. Um, and the travel advisor does not get paid that commission until 30, 60, sometimes 90 days after travel. So there's been a lot of work put in at the front end of a trip for somebody. And so it's becoming much more the norm for the industry to charge a planning fee to help offset the time that was put in to building the trip. My planning fee is really, really simple. It's up to $10,000 of the total spend. So anywhere from, 0 to 10,000, it's a $500 planning fee. That's it. And that gets paid when the client approves the final itinerary. That does not get invoiced at the beginning. That gets paid once the final itinerary is approved. And it is requested, obviously, that get paid before travel. Trips over $10,000, it's 5% of the net. So on a $15,000 trip, you're talking $750. On a $50,000 trip, you're talking $2,500. And I do that because the higher number of the trip, like these, I have one going right now that's about $50,000. There's a lot of work that goes into that trip. A lot of confirmations, a lot of transfers, answering a ton of questions. And so if somebody's willing to make that level of spend, they understand that they really want a travel advisor that's going to be there to make sure that every detail is managed. So it's the best way for me to keep things fair and even, instead of saying, the percentage just seemed to work best, and people feel really good about it. I have not had a client say not hire me because of the travel planning fee.
So that seems too low to me. Just a little $500 if I was going to go to, again, the Florida trip for five or six
Yeah,
thousand dollars for me and my wife, or me and my kid, or whatever. And so for $500, you're that really, to me anyway, is a small price to pay to make sure that my trip is going to go as unflawed or uninterrupted as possible. Because
yeah,
there's, like you say, there's so many moving parts on a trip, and to have a professional like you overseeing that whole operation, because, let's face it, vacation time is very limited. The number of times we get to travel and go have fun. And if one day is messed up and ruined, that $500 is a pittance compared to the
right.
value and the aggravation and everything like that. So that, to me, that's almost like cheap insurance.
It is a form of cheap insurance, and we can talk. And I know we're going to talk about travel insurance too, but um, it is a way to just know that you've got somebody that has your back. I've had clients show up at the hotel and they've had the wrong room. They've whatever. Even though I've called and confirmed everything, those types of things, I have the relationship with that hotel. I know exactly who to contact and say, you need to fix this and you need to fix it now. And this client needs to have something additional added on to their room as a kind of payment for the hassle. So, I am there fighting for the clients, making sure they get exactly what they wanted. Um, and like I said, I'm building those relationships, talking to the hotels well before the client even leaves. So,
That's actually a very important point that might not have even come up on this conversation without you bringing it up. Traveling's stressful, and when you go to check in at the airline, check in at the hotel or whatever, I don't know anything. I
right,
and frequently, I feel like somebody's pulling the wool over my eyes if they say, "Oh, Mr. Cummings, that room's not available, but as a favor to you, we're gonna put you in this other one that has a view of the alley." And at that point, what am I gonna say? No, I'm gonna
right,
sleep in the street. So the fact that you have the leverage and the relationship with the hotels, probably part of you, part of your group and everything, they're going to be a little more accommodating or at least listening to your concerns versus Jay standing in the lobby.
right. Well, and for instance, I do have clients traveling to Florida this weekend, a young family, and I reached out to the hotel. They're going down to Key West. And I am able to say to the hotel, if you have a room upgrade available, I would really appreciate it if you could put these clients in an upgraded room. Not that there's anything wrong with their room. Their room's going to be beautiful, but I can ask that question, um, because they're going to be much more receptive to me, um, and giving the client that room upgrade if it's available. And that's also part of the process, is just understanding the relationship that the travel advisor has with the hotel. We can't ask them to do things that are not possible, of course, but we can say to them, these clients have been really great to work with. If there's any kind of room upgrade available, please feel free to put them in there. And I look forward to hearing about the experience the clients has at your hotel, and I'm really hopeful I can add your hotel to my preferred hotel list. So they know that we're keeping track, and I have a list of hotels that I will and will not use all around the world.
That's amazing, Carrie.
Yeah.
So I know we've got a few people watching from either Facebook, Instagram, or on our YouTube live channel. Folks, if you just tuned in recently, feel free to ask Carrie a question. The purpose here is to provide information and answers. So if you have a question, all you have to do is whatever platform you're watching on, just enter something into the comment section, just like you would comment on any other post on Facebook or Instagram. That comment populates directly into our application here, and you can get whatever answer you'd like. But this is quite fascinating to me, and I can tell already I'm going to be a customer on my next. That's cheap insurance, as we said, and we did say we were going to talk about insurance here, so maybe that'll be our next topic. And I can tell you from the traveling I've done in the past, it seems like traveling is much more, I don't know how to put it. It seems more complex. It seems like there's more cancellations and delays and things like that than there's ever been. I remember 20 years ago or so going on a cruise and not being afraid to book the airline and the departure on the same day. If the plane was landing maybe 4 hours before the boat took off, I was willing to roll the dice because back then the odds seemed like 1 in 100. Today, it seems like 1 in 2 that you're going to get bumped, and missing the boat cannot be an enjoyable experience.
Right, right. Well, and for a lot of clients, I do book cruises, especially river cruises. I love river cruises. And my clientele seem to be 55 and over mostly. But I've got lots of clients that also sail the other cruise lines. But I really encourage people to at least do the 2-day pre-cruise experience with the cruise line, whatever cruise line that may be, because it gets you in 2 days before. It's really not usually not all that much more. Um, and they take care of everything, but also it gives you that buffer that if your flight does get bumped, or delayed or canceled or whatever, you still have a whole day to get into the city and be able to make the ship. So it's something that I really do strongly encourage. And if they don't want to do the pre experience, at least just go in a couple days early on your own, and we can book a hotel and find some things for you to do. But what's nice about going through the cruise line is they make sure you are taken to the boat. Like they know when you're coming in. They have things planned, and they make sure you make it to the boat on time. So it's just another form of kind of stability in a world that we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
And again, with you've got 7 days off, you don't want to sacrifice any one of them.
right,
It seems like travel insurance has picked up in activity. Can you talk about that a little bit? And again,
yeah.
Cari goes on to that. I know we got a few new people. If you have a question for Cari about travel ideas, concerns, or you want to know something, feel free to pop it in the chat. It'll pop right up here in front of her, and we can ask Cari that question. But yeah, go ahead on travel insurance, Cari.
So I really am encouraging people to purchase travel insurance, and there's a lot of reasons why, but things happen, and I typically sell, or I don't sell. I can offer, because I don't sell insurance. You can actually call the insurance company, that either one of them that I am currently working with, ask them any question, really get all your questions answered before we decide exactly which policy. And I do use Travel Guard, which is an AIG product, and I've also used Allianz, which a lot of people know about. Um, but it really covers the what ifs. What if I had a client end up with COVID in Mexico? What did we do? We were able to get him out of there early, which is not the way you want to end your vacation, but we were able to get him a refund on everything that, you know, that was impacted by him leaving early. So, and the hotel was awesome to work with. But the insurance really is about, if your flight gets delayed, you not only have me to help try to figure out what's next, but there is a phone number with the insurance agency the insurance company that you can call, and they will help you get rebooked. You don't have to stand in that long line when everybody's trying to figure out where are you going to go next, the cancellation line, so there's just a lot of value. And that information goes into that itinerary that I talked about earlier, your policy number and the phone number that you would call in case of an emergency. And they really are there to help you get to your destination when something goes wrong. And so that just, I would say on average, it's about 10% of the cost of the trip. um, I think that's a pretty reasonable investment to make sure that you are covered. And if something, if we start the process and we book the insurance within usually 14 days, we can add on cancel for any reason coverage. So literally, if something comes up right before you're ready to go and you got to cancel, you're covered. So there's a lot of benefit. And I think it just brings a lot of peace of mind to people, just knowing that they have that coverage.
What are the things that it covers? I mean, there's a delay in rebooking, and then there's you get sick and you can't travel. What are
Right.
some of the other things that, if I
Well,
get sick or at the
yeah. I mean, if you, for instance, if you get injured on an excursion, um, if your luggage is lost, there's coverage for that. Um, Even AIG, you can call and use them as a concierge for while you're in travel. If you have a question about the area that you're in, you can call them and ask them, and they will offer a concierge service. If there's a death in the family, it covers you coming back. I mean, it really also depends on the policy that you purchase, um, but it really, it's really, really beneficial to have that just available to you. So,
All right, Carrie, I'm going to put you on the spot because it does seem like a great thing to have
yeah.
when things go awry, and it
Yep.
seems like things could go awry more now than ever in the
Mhm,
travel
mhm.
industry. In your bookings, have you personally had insurance and used it, or have you had clients that have been able to, they booked the insurance, and if they did the insurance company make them jump through hoops and say that's not covered, or were they really accommodating and did what you hoped it would do?
Yeah, I always buy travel insurance when I travel, and I have not had to use it yet, which is awesome. And it's to me, it's an investment well worth it. I have had clients have to put in claims on their insurance, and I really like AIG, especially because of that. They are so good at working with the client, making sure that they get the refund as quickly as possible. I haven't had anybody have to put a claim in through Allianz yet, so I don't really know how they are, but I really appreciate AIG and their kind of they really go above and beyond as far as I can tell to make sure the client gets what they have coming back to them.
Well, that is a great endorsement of live on the spot activity in the wild, we'll say. So, Carrie, I know we only booked you for 25 minutes for this morning. I'll give one last shout out to anybody watching. If they want to ask a question, simply just type something in the chat. It'll come over here, and Carrie can answer it for you. And Carrie, so um, I kind of have a rule in my life. That I don't tell the doctor where to cut and expect a better outcome. So I let the expert be the professional. When I go get snow tires and they say, "What kind of snow tires do you want?" I say, "I want the kind that you put on your daughter's car." I mean, I don't know anything about snow tires. I kind of led this podcast here today, but with you being the professional, is there any topic that I didn't ask you about that is important and people should know about?
Well, I think we didn't really touch on internet overwhelm all that much, but just be careful when you're out there. If you are a do-it-yourselfer, trust me, I get it. But really do your research, especially on some of the larger booking engines. You really want to make sure those hotels are what they say they are. I've had people call me after travel and say, this hotel told me they were a 5 star, and there's no way. I don't even think they were 3 star. You really need to make sure that you understand what you're booking, um, and just do your homework. It's a lot, but it's what I do every day for clients. I'm constantly looking at different properties and different things to do, and different parts of the world. It's a lot, but that's the part of this that I enjoy most. I say to people, for me, travel planning is like a jigsaw puzzle, right? I open the box, I dump all the pieces onto the table, and then I start working them together until it forms what it is exactly the client is looking for. And that's what gives me great joy about doing this, because that is what I love to do most. So,
What a great way to put that. And I loved. I'm glad you brought up the fact that somebody went to a hotel and they thought it was a 5 star and ended up being a 3 star. Years ago, pre-child, when we used to travel a fair amount, we'd go somewhere new and I would spend all this time trying to research it. And my joke was anytime I went to a new destination, I never knew where I wanted to stay until after I had been there once. So I do all the research. I go, oh, this looks like the hotel I want. I'd stay there and then I'd walk up and down the strip and I go, when I come back, I'm going to stay at that hotel next time. And it sounds like what you offer could certainly eliminate that type of aggravation and activity on my part, or the do-it-yourselfers.
yeah. And I also have suppliers around the world. I have a great supplier in Europe that does train travel, and he and I work really well together, and I trust his judgment. He's never let me down. Clients love that experience. So if I don't really know, I don't guess. I find people that know, and I work with them, and we build something together. So it really just depends on where the client's going, what it is that they want to do. So yeah.
Well, that is incredible, Cari. You have made a believer out of me, and I can't wait to book my next trip because you will be my first call. So
Excellent.
now, Cari, if somebody's just watching and they're a little too nervous to ask a
Yeah.
question, they know other people are watching too. What's the best way to get a hold of you to start the process of even if they're in the tire kicking stages of their next travel?
So you can visit my website. My calendar link is there. You can schedule just a 30-minute travel chat, as I like to call it. I don't charge for that. I just like to hear what people are thinking. And my website is carrymeawaytravels.com, and Cari is Cari, not the other. So carrymeawaytravels.com. You can also reach out to me by email at carrymeawaytravels.com. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel, although it's not really active right now, and LinkedIn. So you could find me anywhere. But yeah, if you want to just schedule a 30-minute conversation about an upcoming trip that you're curious about, feel free to find my calendar and schedule it in.
That is absolutely fantastic. So, I appreciate you coming on today and giving us a half hour. I guess my little clicker's not working for me anymore. We'll keep you front and center for the exit. But I want to thank you for coming on and giving us a half hour of your time and educating us on what a travel agent actually is in 2026, how it is extremely affordable,
Yeah.
um, and the benefits and the value that you add to a trip, and the insurance and assurance have a good time. So, again, I thank you, Cari, for taking your time. Like I said, I can't wait to travel the next time, and you'll be my first call. And
Thank you,
anybody
Jay.
else, go to carrymeaway.com and book your 30-minute consultation free of charge. I believe you will be very happy that you did that. All right, Cari, thanks again, and we
Thanks,
will see
Jay.
you out there in the wild.
Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you.